If you're looking for a delicious vegetarian dinner idea to serve at your next holiday meal, you are going to love this easy nut roast. This recipe is reminiscent of meatloaf, but it's made with a combination of veggies and nuts, and it's naturally gluten-free. To get started, you'll need to have 1 cup of cooked brown rice on hand. This is perfect if you already have leftover rice in the fridge, but I'll also show you how to cook it from scratch. Measure out 1 cup of dry brown rice and pour it into a fine mesh strainer. Rinse it under running water until the water runs clear. Then transfer the rice to a small saucepan and cover it with 2 cups of fresh water. I also like to add in a teaspoon of olive oil to help prevent the rice from sticking together. Bring the liquid to a boil, then cover the pot and lower the heat to a gentle simmer. Let the rice cook until it's tender, about 45 minutes. When the timer goes off, remove the pan from the heat, but leave the lid on for an additional 10 minutes, just to make sure the rice is tender. While the rice is cooking, preheat your oven to 375 degrees Fahrenheit. Use a damp towel to remove any dirt from 1 pound of mushrooms. You can use any variety of fresh mushrooms that you like here, but today I'm using cremini mushrooms, which are also sometimes called baby bella mushrooms. Add the clean mushrooms to a food processor fitted with an S-blade. Then secure the lid and process them briefly, just until they're roughly chopped. This will give them a meat-like texture for the vegetarian meatloaf. Set that aside, then chop 1 yellow onion and mince 2 cloves of garlic. You'll also need to chop a 1/4 cup of fresh parsley and a tablespoon of fresh thyme. Or you can use a teaspoon of dried thyme instead. In a large skillet over medium-high heat, add a tablespoon of olive oil and saute the onion until it starts to soften, about 5 minutes. Add in the garlic, thyme, and chopped mushrooms, and continue to cook until the mushrooms start to release their liquid, about 8 more minutes. While the veggies are cooking, you can use the bowl of your food processor again to chop 3/4 cup of walnuts and a 1/2 cup of pecans. I use nuts that are not roasted or salted, so they'll have a mild flavor, and you can use practically any variety of nut that you happen to have on hand. Briefly pulse the nuts in the food processor until they resemble a coarse flour. When the veggies are done cooking, transfer them to a large mixing bowl. Measure out 1 cup of the cooked rice, and you can reserve the rest of the cooked rice for another meal later. Next, add in those chopped nuts, 1 cup of grated Parmesan cheese, 2 large eggs, and if you need a dairy-free or egg-free recipe, be sure to check out my vegan meatloaf instead. Add in the chopped parsley, 3/4 teaspoon of salt, and a 1/4 teaspoon of ground black pepper. Stir well until the mixture looks relatively uniform. Prepare a 9 by 5 inch loaf pan by spraying it lightly with oil, then press a piece of parchment paper into the bottom of the pan. The oil will hold the parchment paper in place, and this setup will make it easy to remove the nut loaf from the pan later. Transfer the mixture to the prepared loaf pan and use a spatula to flatten the top. Bake this nut roast at 375 degrees Fahrenheit for 40 to 45 minutes until the top looks golden and feels firm to the touch. When cooking something with eggs, the center should always reach an internal temperature of at least 160 degrees Fahrenheit. So you can also check it that way to make sure it's done. Let the loaf cool for at least 15 minutes, and then it's ready to slice and serve. This vegetarian dinner pairs perfectly with your favorite holiday sides like mashed potatoes and my homemade mushroom gravy. You can store any leftovers in an airtight container in the fridge for up to 5 days and reheat the individual slices later for a fast meal. I hope you'll enjoy this vegetarian nut loaf recipe soon, and be sure to check out my other videos here for more fast and easy real food recipes.